"You're nothing but trash," my mother-in-law screamed when I refused to host a free banquet at my restaurant. She had seen me feed a homeless man who came in to warm up. But the next day, everything changed when a wealthy businessman walked into my restaurant. The alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning, but I wasn't sleeping anymore. I lay there staring at the ceiling, calculating next week's payments in my head. The bank loan, staff salaries, suppliers for food, building rent. The numbers added up to a sum that made it hard to breathe. "Mommy, are you awake already?" came Vera's sleepy voice from the next room. I quickly got up, wiping the traces of fatigue from my face, and put on a smile before entering my daughter's room. The 6-year-old girl was sitting on her bed, hugging the plush teddy bear that her father had once given her. "Good morning, sunshine. Time to get up. You have music class at preschool today, remember?" Vera perked up and reached out to me. I picked her up in my arms, pressed her close to me, feeling how her warmth pushed away the anxious thoughts. This is what I work 14 hours a day for. For these hugs, for her laughter, for her future. I end the kitchen. I quickly prepared oatmeal with apples, my daughter's favorite dish. We ate, chatting about the upcoming day, and for those 20 minutes, I allowed myself to forget about the endless worries. Vera talked about her friend from preschool, about a new song they were learning. I listened, nodded, smiled, while in my head Iwa's already composing a to-do list for the day. After dropping my daughter off at preschool, I hurried to the restaurant. The Cozy Hearth, that's what my husband named it when we first opened 5 years ago. A small establishment in the city center, just 20 tables, but each one was placed with love. Paul dreamed of creating a place where people would come not just to eat, but feel at home. 2 years ago, he was gone. A car accident on a slippery road. A second of inattention from another driver, and everything collapsed. Paul can't be brought back, but I didn't let his dream die. Opening the restaurant door, I immediately felt the familiar smells. Fresh bread being baked in the kitchen, the aroma of coffee spices. Chef Alex was already in place, preparing ingredients for the lunch menu. "Alina, good morning," he greeted me without looking up from chopping vegetables. "Today I want to try a new fish soup recipe. What do you think?" "Go ahead and experiment," I nodded, untying my scarf. "Just don't forget to let me taste it before serving it to guests." At 10:30, the waitresses started arriving. Sandra and Tanya had been working with us for 3 years already, knew every regular customer by name. We weren't just colleagues, we were a family that held together. Customers began filling the hall around noon. Retirees from the neighboring building who came for set lunches, office workers from nearby buildings, a young couple with a baby in a stroller who became our regulars after I allowed them to heat up baby food in our kitchen. I flitted between tables, checking that everything was in order, chatting with guests. It was an ordinary weekday, calm and measured, until Valentina Peterson burst through the door. My mother-in-law always knew how to make an impressive entrance. Tall, with a perfect hairstyle, wearing an expensive fur coat, she stopped at the threshold, surveying the hall with an appraising look. Behind her scurried her friend, an equally pompous lady of a certain age. "Alina!" Her voice rang out so loudly that several customers turned around. "We need to talk immediately." I felt my shoulders tense up. Every visit from my mother-in-law meant problems. Since Paul's death, she had turned into my personal tormentor. Before, she simply didn't approve of me. Now she openly hated me. "Hello, Valentina. How can I help you?" I approached her, trying to maintain a polite tone. "Would you like to sit down? Order something." "I'll sit down." She walked to the central table and plopped down on a chair with the air of a queen on a throne. "And coffee with a pastry for me." I nodded to Sandra, and she hurried to the kitchen. I sat down across from my mother-in-law, feeling the curious looks of customers on me. "I came here on business," Valentina began, not waiting for the coffee. "My daughter's wedding is in 2 weeks. A lavish event, 100 guests. And the banquet will be here in your restaurant. I blinked, not immediately understanding where she was going with this. You want to book the hall, Valentina? I'd be happy to, but we don't have space for that many people. We can accommodate a maximum of 30 people, and only if we push the tables together. You didn't understand me, she narrowed her eyes. The banquet will be free. You must do this for the family. For a few seconds, I just looked at her, not believing my ears. Then the meaning of what she said sank in. Free. I repeated. Valentina, I can't do that. You can and you must. She raised her voice, and the entire hall froze. My son created this restaurant. I invested all his money in it, all his strength. And now you're sitting here, reaping the fruits of his labor, and refusing your own family. Paul didn't create the restaurant alone. I tried to speak calmly, although everything inside was boiling. We pinned it together. I invested my savings. I worked alongside him. And after his death, it was I who kept this business afloat. Afloat? My mother-in-law laughed. You're living off our expense. Everything you have is thanks to my son. Sandra brought the coffee but set the cup on the table and quickly stepped back, feeling the tension. Other customers no longer hid their interest. The conversation was heard throughout the hall. Valentina, I took a deep breath. I understand that this is an important event for you, but I can't host a free banquet for 100 people. That's a loss of $50,000. I have loans, salaries, bills. You have? She jumped up from her chair, knocking over the cup. Coffee spilled across the tablecloth, but she didn't even notice. You have nothing. All of this belongs to the memory of my son. And if you refuse me, it'll prove to everyone what kind of greedy, heartless person you are. Enough. I also stood up. My hands were trembling, but my voice was firm. I won't listen to this. Ivy accommodated you many times, gave discounts when you came with friends, prepared holiday dinners for your family at cost, but a free banquet for 100 people is impossible. You're nothing but trash, she screamed so loudly that the glasses rattled. Ungrateful, heartless. My son made a mistake when he got involved with you. You're not worthy of bearing his name. The guests froze. Some lowered their eyes to their plates. Some were clearly uncomfortable. My mother-in-law's friend nervously fingered a napkin, and I stood there, feeling cold sweat running down my back. Leave, I said quietly but distinctly. Right now. I'm leaving right now. Valentina grabbed her purse. But you'll regret this yet. I'll tell everyone what you really like. I'll make sure no one comes here. You'll go bankrupt, and then I'll take this restaurant. It should belong to me, my son's legacy. She flew out of the hall, slamming the door loudly. Her friend hurried after her. I remained standing in the midleaf of the restaurant, feeling dozens of eyes on me. I apologize, I addressed the guests. Please forgive the unpleasant scene. The next cup of coffee for everyone is on the house. Gradually the conversations resumed, but the atmosphere was ruined. I returned to the kitchen, leaned against the wall, and covered my face with my hands. Alex approached and silently handed me a glass of water. Is she always like this? He asked. Worse, I squeezed out. Worse each time. The rest of the day passed in a fog. I smiled at guests, checked orders, talked with suppliers, but my thoughts were far away. My mother-in-law's words had eaten into my consciousness like a splinter. You're not worthy. You live off our expense. You'll go bankrupt by 8 o'clock in the evening. There were almost no customers left. Outside it had gotten cold. The thermometer showed 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Tanya and Sandra were already getting ready to leave when the door opened again, that on the threshold stood a man about 50 years old. A worn jacket with stuffing sticking out, dirty boots, gray disheveled beard. He shifted from foot to foot, clearly afraid to go further inside. Excuse me, he said quietly. Can I just warm up a little? I won't bother anyone, I promise. Sandra had already opened her mouth to say we were closing, but I stopped her with a gesture and walked closer to the man. His hands were trembling, either from cold or from fear. His eyes were clear despite his haggard appearance. Intelligent eyes. "Come in," I said. "Sit at that table by the radiator." He looked at me in confusion, as if not believing it. I don't have money." "I didn't ask about money. Sit down, I'll bring tea now." The man slowly walked to the indicated table, sat on the edge of the chair, still ready to run away at any moment. Sandra and Tanya exchanged glances, but remained silent. I brought him a large cup of hot tea with honey and a plate of cookies. He wrapped both hands around the cup, brought it to his face, inhaling the steam. "Thank you," he whispered. I was so frozen. "Today it's especially cold." "What's your name?" "Michael." He carefully sipped the tea. "I don't want to bother you, really. Just 10 minutes to warm up and I'll leave." "Have you eaten today?" He hesitated, then slowly shook his head. "They gave soup at the shelter at lunch, but I was late, didn't make it." I turned around and went to the kitchen. Alex hadn't left yet. He was giving away his dinner portion. "Please prepare a full meal. Soup, main course, salad, make it bigger." He looked into the hall, understood who it was for, and silently set to work. 15 minutes later, I brought Michael a tray with steaming dishes. The man stared at the food as if he had seen a mirage. I can't accept this." "Eat. These are leftovers, anyway. Tomorrow I'll have to throw them out." I lied. We both knew it was a lie, but he was too hungry to argue. He started eating slowly, trying to eat carefully, maintaining the remnants of dignity. I sat down across from him, poured myself some tea. "Have you been living here long?" I asked, meaning the city. "All my life." He chewed a piece before continuing. "I'm an engineer, or rather, I was. Worked at a factory, designed equipment. Then the factory closed. My wife left, took our son. I started drinking, lost my apartment, then it was all downhill from there." His voice was calm, without self-pity, just stating facts. "You don't drink anymore." 8 months sober. He smiled wryly. "Didn't think I could do it. But one day I woke up on the street, almost froze to death, and realized either die or fight. Now I'm trying to find work. But who will take someone like me?" We talked for almost an hour. Michael told me about his life, not seeking pity, just sharing. About his son, Hodo doesn't want to see him. About his dream of someday returning to normal life. About small victories, a day without alcohol, a night in a warm shelter, a hot meal. When he was getting ready to leave, I packed food for him to take. Then I went to the storeroom where I kept Paul's things that I still couldn't bring myself to throw away. I took out a warm sweater. "Take this. I don't need it anymore, and it's just lying around." Michael accepted the sweater, and I saw tears glistening in his eyes. "Why? Why are you doing this?" he asked. "I'm a stranger to you. I'm homeless." "You're a person," I answered simply, "and you were cold and hungry. That's all." He stood there, crumpling the sweater in his hands, then suddenly extended his hand for a handshake. I shook it. His palm was rough, calloused. "Thank you. I'll never forget this." I walked him to the door, watched him leave down the dark street, wrapping himself in the sweater. My soul felt lighter. For the first time all day after that nightmare, closing the door, I turned around and froze. Valentina was looking in through the window. She stood on the other side of the street, leaning against an expensive car, holding her phone at face level. The screen was glowing. She was clearly photographing or filming something. Our eyes met. A satisfied, almost triumphant smile appeared on my mother-in-law's face. She waved her phone at me, as if saying, "Gotcha!" Then she got in the car and drove away, that a chill ran down my spine. This was bad. Very bad. "Alina, is something wrong?" Sandra approached from behind. "I don't know," I whispered, watching the departing car. "But I think I'm going to have big problems." At home, I found Vera already asleep. The nanny said the girl had eaten dinner well and asked to go to bed herself. I peeked in on my daughter, straightened her blanket, kissed her forehead. Sleep, sunshine. Mommy will handle it, I promise. But lying in the darkness of my bedroom, I wasn't so sure. Valentina never made empty threats. She came back, saw me feeding a homeless person, and hatched some plan. What exactly? The phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I opened it and felt my breath catch out a photo. Me and Michael in the restaurant. He's eating. I'm sitting nearby. Under the photo was text. Refused family. Went all out for a homeless person. Tomorrow everyone will know the truth about you. I held the phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white. So word is, Valentina decided to destroy me, and now she has a weapon. But I won't give up. Paul didn't raise a weak woman. I've been fighting for 2 years to save our restaurant. Raise me, daughter. Prove to everyone that I can do it. And some vindictive mother-in-law won't break me. Let her just try to... I fell asleep late at night with a firm decision. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'll face it with my head held high. I didn't do anything wrong. I fed a freezing person. And if that's a crime in Valentina's eyes, then there's something wrong with her eyes, not with me. The morning began with Vera asking at breakfast, "Mommy, why are you sad?" I looked at my daughter and forced myself to smile. "I'm not sad, baby. Just thinking." "About what?" "About what a wonderful girl you are." Vera giggled and reached out to hug me. At that moment, I understood. For this child, I would go through any trials. Valentina chose the wrong opponent that I arrived at the restaurant earlier than usual, at 6 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to prepare for the work day, check accounts, sort through documents. But as soon as I opened the door, I realized something was wrong. Alex was already standing at the stove, but instead of his usual concentration, his face showed concern. "Alina, did you see this?" He handed me his phone. The screen glowed with a social media post. The photo, me and Michael at the table. The caption was from Valentina. "I want to tell you about my ungrateful daughter-in-law. My son, God rest his soul, created the restaurant, the cozy hearth, invested all his money, all his strength, all his soul. And now this woman is reaping the fruits of Ophi's labor and refusing her own family. Yesterday, I asked her to host a banquet for my daughter. She was reddito me in front of everyone and threw me out. But here's what I saw later. She's feeding homeless people for free, spending my deceased son's money on random people from the street. We're his family, we're not needed, but some bums, please. I ask all decent people to boycott this restaurant. Don't support a person who betrays the memory of loved ones." The post was published overnight. In 5 hours, it had gained 3,000 shares and hundreds of comments. I scrolled through the comments. Most were on my mother-in-law's side. How awful! Family should come first. This is called ingratitude. Poor mother. I'll never go to this restaurant. But there were others too. Maybe she just doesn't have money for a free banquet. Why is helping a homeless person bad? Something's not right here. Need to hear both sides of the story. The hand holding the phone was trembling. I sank into a chair, trying to comprehend what was happening. "This is a disaster," I whispered. "Don't panic." Alex sat down next to me. "We'll handle it. Maybe you should write your own post, explain the situation, and start a public mudslinging match." I shook my head. That'll only add fuel to the fire. By 8 o'clock in the morning, Sandra and Tanya arrived. Both had seen the post. Both were alarmed. "3 of my friends already asked what's going on," Tanya said. I didn't know what to answer. Answer with the truth. I stood up, straightening my shoulders. That I fed a freezing person, and I don't see anything wrong with that. As for the banquet, the restaurant doesn't have the ability to host a free event for 100 people. That's $50,000 in losses that I simply can't afford. And if customers stop coming... Sandra nervously fingered her apron. Then, I hesitated. Then we'll look for a way out. But I'm not going to hide and make excuses. The first alarming call came at 9 o'clock. A booking cancellation. Then a second. A third. By 10 o'clock in the morning, we had lost 5 orders for the coming week. When we opened the doors for customers, the hall filled only halfway. Usually by noon, all the tables were occupied. Today, empty seats, gaped. A few regular customers did come, but only to speak their minds. Alina, how could you? An elderly woman who had lunch with us every Friday looked at me reproachfully. To refuse your own family. That's a sin. Mrs. Johnson. I sat down at her table. I didn't refuse to help. I refused to host a free banquet that would ruin me business. I have loans, employee salaries, bills, but she's your husband's mother. And I respect her. But I can't give away $50,000 that I don't have. The woman snorted and demonstratively pushed away her plate. I thought you were a decent person. I was wrong. She got up and left without finishing her meal. I remained sitting at the empty table, feeling despair wash over me. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Suppliers who had heard rumors. The bank reminding me about a payment. Even the landlord. Alina, you're having some problems there. People are talking. Will you be able to pay rent in time? Of course I will. I lied, not knowing if it was true tea lunchtime. What I feared most happened. Valentina appeared again. This time with 2 friends who looked like twins. Identical hairstyles, identical fur vests, identical haughty expressions on their faces. They walked into the hall and sat at the largest table in the center. Their loud voices were heard everywhere. This is where it all happened, my mother-in-law was saying, gesturing with her hand. I asked for a simple favor for the family, and she threw a tantrum. Disgraceful, one of the friends nodded. Young people today are so ungrateful, the other echoed. Sandra approached their table with menus, but Valentina waved her away. We're not ordering anything here. After everything this woman has done, to demand money from us is the height of audacity. Then I ask you to leave the establishment. I approached the table, trying to remain calm. This place is for guests who want to have lunch. I have every right to be here. My mother-in-law jumped up. This is my son's restaurant. No, this is my restaurant. The documents are in my name, and I'm asking you to leave. Do you hear? She turned to her friends and the other customers. She's throwing me out. The mother of her deceased husband. That's what she's like. Several customers were already getting up, preparing to leave. The atmosphere was unbearable. You'll go bankrupt. My mother-in-law came right up to me. Her voice became quieter but more vicious from this. I'll do everything to take this restaurant from you. You're not worthy of owning what my son created. It'll achieve justice. Leave, I repeated, and this time my voice had steel in it. Right now. Valentina slowly gathered her purse, threw one last look full of hatred at me, and headed for the exit. Her friends hurried after her. When the door closed behind them, I turned to the remaining customers. I apologize for this scene. The first course today is on the house for everyone. But the words sounded empty. Half the tables were empty. Those who remained ate in silence, clearly feeling uncomfortable. By the end of the day, I calculated the losses. Revenue was 40% of normal. If this continues, in a month I'll have nothing to pay salaries with. I let the staff go early and stayed alone in the empty restaurant. I sat at the table by the window, the very one where Michael sat yesterday. I took out the calculator and started counting. Bank loan, $12,000 per month. Rent, $8,000. Salaries, $15,000. Utilities, products, taxes. The numbers added up to a sum that made my head spin. And now imagine that revenue drops by half. No, don't imagine. This is already reality. The phone rang again. The bank. Ms. Morrison, we're calling to remind you about the loan payment. It must be made by the end of the month. We have information that your business is experiencing difficulties. Everything will be on time, I promised, though I didn't know how I'd do it. Hanging up, I covered my face with my hands. For the first time in 2 years since Paul's death, I felt I might not make it, that I remembered the day we opened the restaurant. Paul was so happy, so full of plans. We'll create a place where people will feel good, he said, where they'll feel at home. I'm sorry, I whispered into the emptiness. Sorry I couldn't save your dream. Tears flowed down my cheeks on their own. I didn't hold them back. Here, alone in the dark hall, I could allow myself to be weak. But only for a few minutes to A.T. home. Vera immediately sensed something was wrong. Mommy, were you crying? She asked, hugging me. A little bit, I admitted. Mommy had a hard day. Because of Grandma Val. I looked at my daughter in surprise. How do you know? The nanny was talking on the phone. She said Grandma is doing bad things to you. Is it true? I sat down to be at the child's eye level. You know, sunshine. Sometimes people don't understand each other. Grandma thinks one thing and I think another. But we'll handle it. You're the best, Mommy. Vera hugged me tightly. And Daddy would be proud of you. He told me so. How did he tell you? I didn't understand. In a dream. I dreamed about Daddy, and he said, Take care of Mommy, she's very strong. And he also said everything will be okay. A lump rose in my throat. I pressed my daughter to me, hiding my face in her hair. Thank you, baby. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that. That night, I barely slept, running through options in my head. Take another loan? But against what? I have no collateral. Sell the restaurant? And then what? It's the only source of income. The only thing connecting me topo-ald. I end the morning I arrived at the restaurant with a firm decision. I'll fight to the end. Let revenue drop, let customers leave. I'll find a way to survive. Around 9, there was a knock at the door. I opened it. Standing at the threshold was Michael, the same homeless man I had fed 2 days ago. He looked a bit better, clearly had washed. His beard was trimmed. In his hands he held a small bouquet of wildflowers, already slightly wilted. Good morning, he said shyly. Sorry for coming so early. I wanted to thank you once more. Michael, I was confused. Come in. He entered and handed me the flowers. This is all I could buy with my last money. But you should know what you did. You saved me. I just gave you food. I took the bouquet, feeling tears prickling my nose. No, you treated me like a human being. For the first time in many months, someone saw not trash in me, but Aperson. I thought about this all day yesterday and decided, enough feeling sorry for myself. I found a place at shelter where I can wash and sleep. I started looking for work. Any work, loader, janitor, doesn't matter. I want to return to normal life. And it's thanks to you. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there holding the wilted flowers and crying. I saw the post on the internet, Michael continued, about you and me. It's terrible how people can twist good deeds. You helped me, and you're being harassed for it. That's life. I wiped away tears. But I don't regret it. I want to help. Whatever I can. I have golden hands. I'm an engineer. If you need repairs, something fixed. Thank you, Michael. Really. But right now, I just need to weather this storm. We said goodbye and I watched him go. Maybe it's for moments like these that it's worth living. To see how your kindness changes someone for better. Around noon, something happened that I completely didn't expect. A man about 40 entered the restaurant. Expensive suit, impeccable haircut, confident gait. Success and money emanated from him. You could feel Eidevin in how he moved. He looked around, then approached me. Ms. Morrison. His voice was low, pleasant. My name is Victor Wolf. I need to talk to you. I'm listening. I tensed, expecting more trouble. May we sit? He nodded toward a free table that we sat down. Victor looked at me intently as if assessing. I own a chain of restaurants called Urban Haven, he began. Perhaps you've heard of it. Of course I have. It was one of the most successful chains in the city. 5 establishments. Always full halls. And what do you want from me? I saw your mother-in-law's post. He took out his phone, showed a screenshot. I read all the comments, analyzed the situation. And you know what I thought? That I'm a terrible woman who offends a poor old lady. Victor laughed. Quite the opposite. I thought, here's a person with real values, rare in our time. I looked at him suspiciously. You're joking. Not at all. You see, Ms. Morrison, 2 days ago I was in this area on business. Parked my car across from your restaurant. Was finishing a phone conversation. And accidentally became a witness to a scene. He paused, took a sip of water from the glass that Sandra brought. I saw a homeless man come to you. I saw how you sat him at a table, brought tea, then a full dinner. How you talked with him. How you packed food to go. How you gave him a sweater. I watched all this through the window for almost an hour. My breath caught. You were watching me. No. I just happened to witness an incredibly rare act in our day, genuine humanity. And you know what I felt? I was silent, not knowing what to answer. I felt that I found what I'd been looking for years. Warmth appeared in Victor's voice. You see, I myself was once poor, very poor, a student without a penny to my name. Once I hadn't eaten for 3 days because my list money went to textbooks. I walked into a cafe just to warm up. The owner saw my condition and fed me for free. No questions, no humiliation. Just fed me. He fell silent, looking out the window. That man changed my life. Not because he gave me food, though that was important too, but because he showed me there is kindness in the world. And that gave me the strength not to give up. I finished university, started a business, achieved success. And since then, I've been looking for people with the same values. And so, I asked quietly, I want to invest in your restaurant. For a few seconds, I just looked at him, not understanding. Excuse me, what? I'm offering partnership. 40% share for financial support. Full repayment of your loans, renovation, expansion, new equipment, marketing. But why? Because I see in you what modern business lacks. Heart, soul, real values. I want to create a chain of restaurants with a concept of social responsibility, where helping those in need isn't a marketing ploy, but a sincere impulse. Where business serves not only profit, but people too. My head was spinning. This sounded too good to be true. Mr. Wolf, I need time to think. Of course. He stood up and handed me his business card. Here are my contacts. Call when you're ready to discuss details. I'm giving you 3 days. He was already heading for the exit when I called to him. Wait, what if I turn out not to be the person you think I am? Victor turned around and smiled. People who doubt themselves are usually the most worthy. Think about my offer. I'm sure you'll make the right decision. When he left, I kept sitting, clutching the business card. Sandra sat down next to me. What was that? I don't know, I admitted. Either a chance for salvation or another problem. In the evening, I gathered all the staff, Alex, Sandra, Tanya. Guys, we need to talk. I told them about Victor's offer, about the partnership terms, about development plans. This is wonderful, Tanya exclaimed. Alina, this is our chance. Or a trap, Alex objected. We need to check this person out, find out everything about him. I already checked online. Sandra showed her phone. Victor Wolf, famous restaurateur, millionaire. His establishments are thriving. Impeccable reputation. But why did he choose us? I was still doubting. We're a small restaurant on the verge of bankruptcy. Maybe he really did see something special in you. Sandra shrugged. You fed a homeless person at a moment when you yourself were in crisis. That says a lot about a person. The phone rang. Valentina's name lit up on the screen. I answered. Alina. My mother-in-law's voice was venomous. I'm suing you for emotional damages and for illegally owning the restaurant that belonged to my son. Prepare for legal proceedings. I'll take everything that's left of Paul, and you won't get a penny. She hung up. I slowly lowered the phone. She's suing, I said mechanically. Then you definitely need an ally, Sandra said firmly. Call this Victor. You need support. I looked at the business card, then at my employees, these people who stayed with me despite everything. All right, I decided. Tomorrow I'll contact him, but only after my lawyer checks everything. At home I sat in Vera's room for a long time, watching her sleep. So small, so defenseless. For her, I was ready for anything. I took out an old photo, Paul and I on the restaurant's opening day. Both smiling, full of hopes and plans. Sorry if I'm wrong, I whispered to the photo, but I have to take this risk. For us, for Vera, for the future. You'd understand, right? Of course, no answer came, but in my soul I felt something like peace. The decision was made. Tomorrow a new war would begin, in court, in business, in life. Valentina wanted to destroy me, but she didn't take one thing into account. I had already been through my husband's death, through loneliness, through fear, and survived, which means I can handle this too. Let her just try to take from me what I fought for. I went to bed with a firm intention to call Victor Wolf in the morning and accept his offer. A risk? Absolutely. But sometimes the biggest victories require the biggest risks. And my story was just beginning. In the morning I called Victor Wolf exactly at 9 o'clock. Ms. Morrison, his voice sounded warm. I was waiting for your call. I agree, I said without preamble. But on one condition, all documents will be checked by my lawyer. If he confirms everything is clean, we'll sign the contract. Reasonable. When can we meet with your attorney? Today at 3 o'clock. Excellent. I'll come to your restaurant. The meeting took place in my small office on the second floor. Victor brought a whole folder of documents. My lawyer, Robert Johnson, an elderly experienced attorney who once helped Paul and me set up the restaurant, put on his glasses and delved into studying them. For 3 hours he read, checked, asked questions. Victor patiently answered everything, showing no irritation or haste. Finally, Robert set aside the last sheet. Alina, everything is clean. Moreover, the terms are more than fair. You keep the controlling stake, 60%. Mr. Wolf gets 40% for investments and takes on all current debts. Plus, operational management remains with you. I exhaled with relief. Then I'm ready to sign. There's something else. Victor pulled out another folder. I'd like to propose additional points. First, a Meals of Kindness program. Free lunches every Sunday for those in need. Second, an employment program for homeless people who want to return to normal life. We'll take them as kitchen assistants, train them, give them a chance. Are you serious? I couldn't believe my ears. Absolutely. This will be part of our concept, Restaurant with Heart. That's what we'll call our franchise. The contract was signed that same day. When I put my signature down, my hand trembled with excitement, with fear, with hope. Welcome to the partnership. Victor shook my hand. Now the most interesting part begins. The first tranche of investments arrived in the account the next day. I paid off the bank loan, settled with suppliers, paid rent 3 months in advance. For the first time in many months, I could breathe easy. Now let's tackle the renovation, Victor said, surveying the hall. Nothing drastic. Just refresh, update equipment. Keep the coziness, but add modernity. The transformation began. A construction crew came on Monday. They worked quickly, carefully. New chairs, an updated bar counter, a modern coffee machine, a professional oven for the kitchen. Alex was delighted with the new equipment. With this technology, I can cook dishes I only dreamed of before. In parallel, Victor took on promotion. Professional photographers shot the restaurant and dishes, created a new website, opened social media pages, hired a manager that I was nervous. What if the attacks start again? My mother-in-law's post is still getting views. Let them, Victor answered calmly. We'll tell the real story. Without excuses, without dirt. We'll just show how we are and what we do. And he kept his word. Posts appeared on our social media about the assistance program, about how we would feed those in need every Sunday, about the employment program, about our philosophy. Business should serve not only profit, but people too. The first meal of kindness was held on Sunday, 2 weeks after signing the contract. We didn't know if anyone would come. At all, 30 people came. Homeless people, retirees with tiny pensions, single mothers with their children, students without money. They all received a hot, full meal. Without humiliation, without checks. Just kindness. Michael came too. He already looked completely different. Clean clothes, trimmed hair, clear eyes. Ms. Morrison, he approached after lunch. I found temporary work as a loader. But if your offer about the employment program is still relevant, I'd really like to work for you. Come tomorrow at 8 in the morning, I smiled. Alex will teach you everything you need to know to be a cook's assistant. Tears welled up in Michael's eyes. I won't let you down. I promise. And he didn't let me down. Michael worked like a man possessed, came earlier than everyone, left later than everyone, learned quickly, was neat and diligent. Alex told me after a week, I've never had a better assistant. He has golden hands. Michael's transformation story became known thanks to journalists. A local newspaper learned about our program and sent a reporter. The article came out with the headline, How Kindness Turned into Successful Business. It told about the conflict with my mother-in-law, about how I fed a homeless man, about the partnership with Victor, about our assistance programs. Michael's story especially touched readers. He gave an interview, told about his fall and rebirth. I lost everything. Family, work, home, dignity. I thought life was over. But one woman looked at me and saw not trash, but a person. She gave me a chance and I took it. The article was reprinted by several publications. People started talking about us. People began coming not only to eat, but also to see the restaurant that helps people. Bookings poured in like from a cornucopia. A month later, we were booked solid 2 weeks in advance. Customers themselves began donating to the assistance program. We put up a special donation box, and it was constantly being replenished. See, Victor said, I told you, goodness attracts goodness. But Valentina didn't calm down. The court summons came a month after our partnership. My mother-in-law filed a lawsuit for division of property, demanding recognition of the restaurant as jointly acquired property of Herson and transfer of half the share in favor of the granddaughter, meaning effectively under her control. Robert studied the documents and shook his head. The case is weak. The restaurant was registered in your name personally during your husband's lifetime. You invested your own funds. This is your sole property. But be prepared for them to try to smear you. The hearing was scheduled for Tuesday. I arrived an hour before the start in a strict suit with a folder of documents. Robert was next to me. Valentina appeared with a lawyer, a young, aggressive man in an expensive suit. Her look, when she saw Muez, full of hatred. Today you'll get what you deserve. She hissed that I remained silent, not wanting to waste energy on squabbles. The hearing began. My mother-in-law's lawyer was good, eloquent, convincing. He talked about what a wonderful mother Valentina had been, how she supported her son, how he dreamed of creating a family business. And now this woman, he pointed at me, solely owns what rightfully should belong to my client's family. She refuses help to her own relatives, but spends money on strangers. Robert stood up. Your Honor, allow me to present documents. He handed the judge a folder. The restaurant was registered in the name of Alina Morrison in 2019. Here's the certificate of ownership. Here's the lease agreement in her name. Here are bank statements confirming that she invested her own funds in the amount of $30,000. That's my son's money. Valentina cried out. Do you have proof? The judge asked calmly. She faltered. There was no proof. Why mother-in-law's lawyer went on the offensive. Fine. Let's say the restaurant formally belongs to the defendant. But what did she do with it? Turned it into a charity cafeteria. Feeds homeless people. Gives away money left and right. This is wastefulness that damages the interests of my client's minor granddaughter. Your Honor, Robert stood up. May I call a witness? Call them. Victor Wolf entered the hall, elegant, confident. He walked to the podium and introduced himself. I'm Victor Wolf, partner and co-investor in the restaurant, The Cozy Hearth. I want to provide the court with financial documents. He handed a folder to the judge. As you can see, over the past month, the restaurant's profit has grown by 200%. We've opened social assistance programs, and this has attracted a huge number of customers. Our concept, Business with Heart, has proven incredibly successful. We're now planning to open a second location. My mother-in-law's lawyer tried to object, but all this happened only after Mr. Wolf invested his funds. Exactly, Victor nodded. And do you know why I decided to invest? Because I saw in Ms. Morrison qualities that are critically lacking in modern business. Honesty, kindness, principles. I'd been looking for such a partner for many years, and I found her. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I've observed Alina Morrison's work. She works 14 hours a day, raises her daughter alone, kept the business going after her husband's death despite enormous difficulties. She's not wasteful. She's a far-sighted entrepreneur who understands that real success is built on values. The judge looked thoughtfully at the documents. I'd like to call another witness, Robert requested. Michael entered the hall. He was nervous, you could see it, but he held himself with dignity. Tell the court about yourself, the lawyer asked. Michael told his story about the fall, about life on the street, about that evening when he was freezing and came into the restaurant just to warm up. Ms. Morrison could have thrown me out. She had every reason to. I looked terrible, had no money. But she sat me at a table and fed me, not out of pity, but because she saw a person in me. Thanks to her, I found the strength to change. Now I work at her restaurant, rent an apartment, restored my relationship with my son. She saved my life. Silence reigned in the hall. Valentina sat with a stone face, but I noticed her lips tremble. The judge announced a recess. We went out into the corridor. Victor approached me. Everything will be fine. The case is on our side. Thank you. I squeezed his hand. For everything. When the hearing resumed, the judge announced the decision. Having reviewed all the materials presented, the court comes to the following conclusion. The restaurant, The Cozy Hearth, is the sole property of Alina Morrison. There are no grounds for division of property. The lawsuit is denied in full. Valentina jumped up. This is unfair. She took everything that belonged to my son. I didn't take anything. I also stood up, looking my mother-in-law straight in the eyes for the first time during the entire hearing. I continued what Paul and I started together. I preserved his dream, and I will continue doing so. The judge struck the gavel. Please maintain order in the hall. The hearing is concluded. I left the courtroom and only then felt my legs buckling. Victor caught me by the arm. Hold on. You won. Yes, I whispered. I won. But as we descended the steps, Valentina called out to me, Alina, wait. I turned around. My mother-in-law stood alone. Her lawyer had already left. Her face was pale, tired. What will your daughter say, she asked quietly, when she finds out you deprived me of my last connectionto, my son? Vera will say that her mother is an honest person, I answered firmly. Valentina! I never forbade you from seeing your granddaughter. You can come to her whenever you want. But that doesn't give you the right to interfere in my business or try to control my life. She was silent, looking at the ground. Paul didn't belong only to you, I continued more gently. He was my husband, Vera's father, and everything I do in memory of him. Every day I continue his work. Every day I preserve his dream. Isn't that enough? Valentina raised her eyes to me, and I saw tears in them. I was just afraid that he'd be forgotten, she whispered, that you'd get married, start a new life, and nothing would remain of Paul. He will never be forgotten, I assured her. Never. Vera is growing up knowing what a wonderful person her father was. The restaurant bears the name he gave it. I remember him every day, and that won't change, no matter what happens. She stood with her head down, and I suddenly understood. Behind all this anger and hatred was simply the pain of a mother who had lost her son. Come to dinner with us on Sunday, I said. Vera will be glad to see you. My mother-in-law nodded without raising her eyes, and slowly walked away. That a few weeks later, she really did come. Timid, uncertain. Vera rushed to hug her, and I saw Valentina's face soften. At tea dinner we barely talked. Too much pain still remained between us, but it was a first step. Fragile, uncertain, but a step, and then she started coming regularly. At first she silently sat at a table, watching how the restaurant worked. Then one day she asked, "Can I help with Vera on Sunday?" At the meals of kindness, I could watch the children while their parents eat. I was amazed but agreed, and from this began our reconciliation. Slow, careful, but sincere, the restaurant flourished. 3 months later, we opened a second location in a neighboring district. Same concept, same values. Michael headed the kitchen at the new establishment. By that time, Alex had trained him enough that he could work independently. The story of our success spread across the country. I was invited to conferences, interviewed for magazines and television. The question was always the same: what's the secret? There's no secret, I answered. Just stay human. Help those who are struggling. Build business, not only on profit, but on values too. And success will come on its own. Victor became not just a partner, but a true friend. We spent hours discussing development plans, new projects, business philosophy. Mutual respect and understanding arose between us. One day, after a particularly successful day when the third restaurant was officially opened, we sat in my office over glasses of wine. "You know," Victor said thoughtfully, "when I saw you feeding that homeless man, I thought, this is her, the person I was looking for, with whom I want to build the future." I looked at him. "In business?" He smiled. "For now, yes. But who knows what will come next? We have plenty of time ahead of us." There was something warm in his look, and I felt slight embarrassment. But relationships, that's something I wasn't ready for yet. The memory of Paul was too strong. Yes, I agreed. Plenty of time. Vera grew up in an atmosphere of kindness and work. She saw how Mom helps people, how the team works, how business can serve not just money but humanity. 2.1 day, she came home from school with shining eyes. "Mom, I want to organize a toy collection for children from the shelter." The teacher allowed it. "Can we bring them to the restaurant and then deliver them together?" "Of course, sunshine." I hugged my daughter, feeling pride. "That's a wonderful idea." Thus another tradition appeared in our restaurant. Children's charity events organized by Vera with her classmates. 5 years passed. I stood before the mirror in a new business suit, preparing for the opening of the 10th restaurant in our chain. The 10th! Who would have thought on that terrible day when Valentina threw a tantrum that everything would turn out like this? In each of our restaurants, an assistance program for those in need operated. We employed over 100 homeless people. Many of them restored their lives. Our story became an example of how business can be successful and socially responsible at the same time. The phone rang. "Michael." "Ms. Morrison." "Everything's ready for the opening." Staff is in place. Food is prepared. We're waiting for you. On my way, I smiled. Michael was now the manager of the third restaurant. He not only restored his life, but also found his son, reconciled with him, even met a woman, a kind waitress from a neighboring establishment. I end the car. I thought about the journey, about pain, about struggle, about fear, about how one simple act, feeding a freezing person, changed everything. Everyone was at the opening: Victor, staff from all the restaurants, Vera, who now studied at a prestigious school and dreamed of becoming a doctor, even Valentina, who over these years had become practically a member of our team. Cutting the ribbon, I gave a short speech. 5 years ago, I was on the verge of bankruptcy. I thought everything was lost. But I made a choice to remain human despite everything, to help someone who needed help. And that choice changed my life. It led me to people who share the same values, to success that's built not on greed, but on kindness. Remember, one act of humanity can change not only someone else's life, but your own too. The applause thundered for a long time. Vera ran to hug me. Valentina wiped away tears. Victor stood nearby, and in his look you could read pride. I end the evening. When everyone had dispersed, I returned to the first restaurant, that same cozy hearth. I walked around the hall, remembering that day when Paul and I first opened the doors for customers. That on the wall hung a photo, Paul and I on opening day. Young, happy, full of hopes. "We did it," I whispered to the photo. "I preserved your dream and made it even bigger. I hope you're proud of me." Of course, no answer came. But in the silence of the empty hall, I felt his presence, his approval, his love. The phone vibrated. A message from Victor. "Great work today. Want to have dinner tomorrow. Discuss plans for next year." I smiled, typing a response. "With pleasure." Maybe 5 years is enough time to allow myself not just a business dinner. Maybe I'm finally ready to open my heart again, not forgetting the past, but allowing myself a future. Leaving the restaurant, I turned around. Above the entrance glowed the sign, "The Cozy Hearth, where everyone matters," and under it a small plaque I had installed a year ago, in memory of Paul Morrison, who believed in kindness. I locked the door and walked to my car. There were so many plans ahead: new restaurants, new assistance programs, new lives we could change. But the main thing I understood over these years: wealth isn't measured by money in the account. It's measured by how many people you've helped, how many lives you've touched, how much kindness you've brought into the world. And by that measure, I was the richest person I knew. That a week later I got a call from Business and Society magazine. "Ms. Morrison, we'd like to do a big interview with you. You've become a symbol of a new approach to entrepreneurship. What's the secret of your success?" I thought before answering. Never forget about humanity. One act of kindness can change not only someone else's life, but your own too. Money comes and goes. But how you treat people, that's your real wealth. That's what remains after you. And we continued changing the world, one bowl of soup at a time.